Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. This is freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, it's Anna and welcome to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. In this episode, I interview Alexis Moss. She's a results and people-focused leader with a track record of success through excellence in delivery at a senior level. Alexis has proven her ability to lead through change, inspire people to be the best and support and deliver business strategies with an ever-changing NHS environmental landscape. She's got a clinical biology degree. Alexis has 20 years experience in the pharmaceutical industry, and in fact that was where our paths crossed around 20 years ago. She now has a very leadership role in the industry, and I'm so excited because I know she's had a lot of challenges in her journey and she's got some great shares to share with you today. Okay, so welcome, Alexis. I'm really excited for this interview because we've known each other. I was trying to work it out earlier. It's 20 years now. 20 years we've known each other. It's like a prison sentence. I met you way back when I was working in the pharmaceutical industry, and I know that you're currently still working in that industry. So yeah, the Freedom Podcast is all about freedom, and also freedom in, I have 3 pillars, one being love, freedom in love, and everyone always thinks that's around romantic relationships, but for me it's around self-care, self-love, and all our relationships that we have with everybody. Freedom in money is all around creating financial freedom, and mind is all about what I call Fred in the head can play tricks on us, so having a free mind. And those 3 pillars, I think, can help us create happiness in our world, really. So yeah, I know that you've had, just from knowing you for many years, I know that you've had many successes in your journey, and you've also had many challenges as well. And I think it's really useful for people listening to this podcast that might be going through tough patches right now, especially with what's happening in the world with COVID, that I believe that listening to other people's stories helps you kind of with that light at the end of the tunnel to get through anything, really. And it's kind of like that whole, what is it? A problem shared is a problem halved, you know? So really, you know I obviously met you, as I say, working in the pharmaceutical industry, and we were always very ambitious, both of us. We've always been, in fact, at one point, we were kind of like head to head in our careers, really. Our paths were crossing exactly the same point, weren't we? Where we were both really ambitious at applying for certain jobs that were quite similar and stuff. So we have quite a lot of alignment as well. We and we also have our differences as well. But as regards to like what you've done in your career, let's start with your career. To explain like maybe your successes and what you're really proud of today, really, because I know you're similar age to me, and I know you've had ups and downs on the way, but what's been like your proudest moment today in your career?
Well, I'll rewind a little bit before career, because before career I was very sporty, and I got sent to a boarding school that was very sporty, and unfortunately that came to an end, and I actually got expelled. And I remember my dad driving me home saying, "Juliet, she's been singing Kylie Minogue all the way back." And I said to him, "Dad, Richard Branson got expelled. You watch, you wait and see what I do." So that's where I'll start.
Yeah.
So it didn't start very well. So I guess what I'm most proud of is probably juggling a job when my eldest son was chronically ill. So although at the time I was part-time term time, which was perfect for me at Pfizer, it was still a real juggle because Louis was in and out of hospital, as you know, and that was challenging. So that was a real challenge, but proud of myself that I managed to do it and stick to it and get through the other side. And when he started to get a bit better, my ambition came back. And I think my proudest moment in my pharmaceutical career with the 2 pharma companies I worked for was being the youngest regional director that Pfizer had ever had without any sales management experience. So I was 34. I'd never managed anybody, and I got put into a very senior strategic role in Pfizer. The guy that managed us at the time had come from Unilever, and he was from Leeds, very inspirational leader. And he said, "Come on, lass, come on, young," and he used to call me. "You can do this." And I got the job, and I got the job over and above people that you would have, in fairness, as Anna knows, would have expected to get the job. So I was thrust into this position. First day, met my PA, and I could see her looking at me, and I went, "I know, I look like a blonde bit of fluff, but we'll have fun along the way." And that's been, I guess, another proud moment in that all the teams that I've had, we roll our sleeves up, but we can have an element of fun, but we deliver. So I'm really, really results driven. So I think I was a top regional director 4 years in a row at Pfizer. And then when I moved over to my current company, which is around wholesale distribution of medicines, I've smashed my target every year on year on year, and grown and won some big contracts, lost a couple, but learned from it.
And I know, just to rewind a little bit, I know from my experience in, like, you know, the pharmaceutical industry, or just more like the corporate world in general, that I was discussing this with someone recently when we were talking about diversity and all the Black Lives Matter and stuff. And I said, you know, I don't understand, you know, racism fully because I'm not, you know, I'm a white person. But what the only thing I can relate to is I felt in the corporate world there was quite a lot of sexism that happened. You know, being in a meeting and sometimes my voice wasn't heard over a guy. So being a young female regional director, and that must have been completely one of your proudest moments, because I know how tough it is in the corporate world to be a female, never mind a young female getting in a senior.
And I also mixed it up. I launched innovation into Pfizer. So we bought a company called Upping Your Elvis in, and we ran not only workshops on conference for the teams and on annual conferences, but we also bought it externally with customers to try and share the innovation with customers. So not only did I step into it, and there were a few females on that leadership team at the time, but I led a really big change project with Pfizer. I think proud now because I'm in a team of 7 and I'm the only female in the group. And my boss just always says to me, "Oh, they're all peacocking against each other." And you just, I won't use his exact words because he swears a lot, but you put out their fire, shall we say. I get that from my boss.
So where do you think like all this ambition has come from?
My dad.
And what, you know, how he, like, where is that? Yeah. So it's come from your dad, but where has that kind of drive come from?
So my dad was a professional footballer, and he came from a small town in Barnsley called Shafton, and tells me stories of how he used to walk to school with no shoes, which I'm not too sure whether I believe or I don't believe. But when I was about 12, my dad set up a company called Open Chord Limited, and he used to take me there. So I learned to touch type at 12. He used to, when he got the YTS students in for sales and marketing, he used to start them off with reach for the positives, shake out the negatives, and just that drive. Also in my sports career, I mean, if I messed up in my sports career, I was a hurdler, my dad would be the first one to come down on me like a ton of bricks, like I wasn't focused on the blocks, and etc., etc. So he's always pushed and driven me, but he's very, very driven himself. So I think I've got it from that, but also with the adversities in life. So, you know, I didn't do university like a normal person. I had a 2-year-old child living with me who was my ex-husband's son. So I've always been juggling. You know, at that time I was doing university, looking after Thomas, part-time jobs. And I've always been doing. The only time I suppose I lost a little bit my major was when Louis was really, really poorly, but that's understandable. But the minute he started getting better, I knew that I wanted to progress. And, you know, it's probably one of the scariest things I've done, going for that regional director job, but thank God I did, because, you know, it helped me on my career now.
Yeah. And you touched on adversities and stuff, and I know that you've had your fair share, as it were. And I know how that kind of, sometimes I think that it's helped me as a distraction by focusing so much on like work, on the work side of thing, when you have got adversities, and it kind of, I don't know, just has fueled me that way. But I know you've had a lot of things happen, haven't you? And I don't know if you want to share some of those, because I think that helps people who are listening just be able to get through, because we can talk about how you managed to get through those as well. So I know you.
I mean, Thomas came to live with us because there was problems with his mum. So we had a 7-year-long court battle around custody. I was only 18, so that was tough, but worth it. Then Louis came along, and he was in intensive care twice, and probably 80 plus admissions, I'd say, over a 6-7 year period. Pleased to say he's 20 years of age now, and he's fine, he's better. Yes, am I worried about COVID with him? Of course I am, because he's got small lungs, but we just try and plow on. Then I got divorced because I had a violent partner, so violent husband. So unfortunately that marriage came to an end, which meant I lost Thomas, because Thomas stayed with his dad. Sort of came through that, and we became friends, and we were good friends, and everything was ticking along nicely. And then met my now husband, who's in the army. And it was when you were pregnant with Reeves. I got diagnosed with a condition called transverse myelitis, which is essentially multiple sclerosis in your spinal cord. And Anna knows full well, because she came with me to my follow-up appointment after diagnosis, with heavily pregnant, with a list of questions I needed to ask to make sure I could understand fully what it meant.
Scaring the consultant.
With the consultant. So, what does that mean to me? I've had 11 operations on my left knee, and probably 3 or 4 on my right knee, because the neuropathic pain, the nerve pain, masks the normal pain, and so I was damaging the cartilage. Still got pretty rubbish mobility in my left knee, but we plow on. I had an operation just before lockdown, and then had a massive open wound on my knee, so couldn't do any physio, so we're a little bit behind on that, but we'll get it sorted. And then probably another interesting fact is I don't have a coccyx, because when I was on crutches, I fell over in a major chain of pubs, fractured my coccyx, and ultimately had it removed. So pain and mobility is difficult for me, especially when I was so sporty and I used to run a lot. I couldn't even run across the road now if a bus was about to hit me. So that's tough, but we carry on and we do what we can. And
yeah, and so you've said that a couple of times, like when you were talking about Louis, and then also your health conditions and stuff, that we just carry on. How have you managed to get through those tough times? Because I'm just thinking, again, people listening might be able to, what is there anything you can share that can help people get through tough times? What is it that's worked for you?
Talking is probably the main thing. So with Louis, I became really close to his consultant. He used to ring me when he was in intensive care and have chats with me. Friends, been a massive big part of it, because my friends have been there, either to listen to me moan and cry, or to try and, make me laugh when I'm upset. See my mum and my dad, but to say I've got a really strong group of friends that can pick me up when I'm feeling down, or have a giggle with when we just need to speak to each other. Last night we were on a Zoom and we were laughing our heads off over silly things. So friends, but also I do throw myself into my work a bit, because it's the one thing in my life I know I'm good at, and I don't need to think about it too much. I kind of go onto autopilot with work, and it's one thing in my life that I've never had a bad review. I've never had a bad year at work. I've always been told you're doing a good job, and that spurs me on to think, okay, that's one thing that I can focus on and do it really well. And it diverts me. Obviously with Louis, it's one of those time periods that, talking to his consultant just really helped, but friends, I would say.
Yeah.
Talk.
And as regards to like your ongoing health as well, do you have any when you have like bad times? Because I know knowing you personally that you have ups and downs with the pain and stuff, like stress can bring it on more and things like that. Is there anything that you use to cope with all of that, apart from drinking wine? Apart from wine.
Holidays, which haven't been many this year, but it's fair to say, again, I've been very, very anxious about COVID. The job I'm in now, when we first went into lockdown, we distribute medicines to community and hospital pharmacy. We helped set up the Nightingale hospitals, which again is another thing I'm incredibly proud of. I'm about to embark on some projects that really, hopefully, will get this country out of this global pandemic. So it helps when you're working on projects that mean a lot and are helping people out. So, but I was talking about COVID from sort of 7 o'clock in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm not ashamed to phone counsellors. So we've got an ERP, sorry about that. We've got an ERP system program, which is our employee relationship program. And there's counsellors on the phone 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I phoned those counsellors on numbers of occasions and encouraged my team to, because it's just a person that's on the other end of the phone that doesn't know you from Adam, and you can just have a bit of a rant, a bit of a cry, and then you sort of like, I feel much better now. And I encourage people actively to phone the ERP, because I think it's important. It's all about talking and sharing. It is all about talking and sharing, because, I remember the first time I rang the lady, I do apologize. First time I rang the lady, one of the ladies, she just said to me, are you actually dressed and have you had a shower? This is proper global pandemic, lockdown. I was like, I haven't. She just said, you need to go and have some me time, run a bar, talk to your friends on the phone in the bath if you want, or just relax and chill out with a candle. And I did that, washed my hair, got dressed. And that's what I say to myself every day now, because you can slip into whacking a pair of leggings on and putting my newsreader top on, as I call it, which I put at the side of the sofa, but actually doing your hair, doing your makeup, not for men, obviously, they can moisturize, getting yourself up and dressed really helps that mental health perspective. But I do think it's all about, I think everything in life is about communication, everything, with your kids, with your ex-partners, with your current partner, with your friends. It's all about seeking to understand, because there's always two sides to everything, and the truth is somewhere in the middle, and it's about trying to get to that common ground, whether that's personal life or work.
Yeah. And I think also, like you say, sometimes it does feel like, why me? We all do that. We all do it. I don't care whoever, I might sometimes portray that I don't, because I think there's always, like you say, mechanisms that are put in place, like get in the shower and just freshen up can do you a world of good, or going for a walk.
Yeah, I walk lots.
And all that kind of stuff. And just talking to someone. Sometimes when you talk to someone, you realize that there is other stuff going on in their world. So I think social media doesn't help, because obviously we see everybody with these perfect worlds, or what we perceive as perfect worlds, and we think ours isn't, and we compare it to that. But actually it is the things like speaking to friends or speaking to people, sometimes actually speaking to someone that doesn't really know you, can help, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose it would be amiss of me not to mention my husband. I do have my poppy on. You can't see it on screen. It's Remembrance Sunday, so I probably should mention him. Done 2 tours of Afghan. The first one horrendous. The second one was a lot safer. But his battalion are about to go up to Liverpool tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to start being trained on the COVID rapid testing. So they'll be over there first thing tomorrow morning. So yeah, being married to a military man, don't see him much. But to be honest, freedom for me is being able to have the freedom. So it means I can't see my friends this year, obviously, but it allows me to be Judith Chalmers. And if I can get the opportunity to go on a holiday, I go on a holiday, because there's nothing better for me than just lying in the sun. We went on holiday, we snuck away for a week in end of August, beginning of September. We laughed and laughed and laughed. Silly things, like I said to them, don't touch me, because I'm really strict on the whole COVID. And one of my friends sort of went, I didn't realize I was on holiday with MC Hammer. And then that carried on the whole holiday. It was just silly. But we laughed and laughed and laughed. I think laughter is the best therapy for all of us, because even in really adverse times, I suppose the final one to mention, I don't want this to feel like it's filing, because I'm absolutely fine, but my mum decided to try and die on me during the initial lockdown. So she was in intensive care in a induced coma for 3 weeks. Had to bring my 81-year-old father over here, which was interesting in itself, because I haven't lived with him since I was 12, because I went to boarding school. She's absolutely fine now, but we lived through 3 weeks of horror with her. And anyway, she woke up and she said she'd had a lovely time. She'd been to Dubrovnik and Prague and had a wicked time, so she was all right. So we're all fine now, but you just have to, I suppose my leadership head comes on in that situation of I'm not the eldest child, I'm smack bang in the middle, well, actually second youngest, actually, out of 5. that they come to me for that leadership. Because when you've worked in pharmaceuticals, everybody thinks you're a doctor, obviously, because you know everything about medical conditions. I just do the Google. That's all I do.
That's exactly what I do.
Just do the Google.
Still, even though I'm not in the industry, I've still got family and friends that think that I know should know everything about every medicine.
Yeah. But it's nice, you know, it's nice that they feel that you know that you're the one capable emotionally and what's the word, emotionally, but also with a sensible hat on to kind of take the problem and sort of run it and make sure that you do the right thing and keep in contact with people, etc. That was nice because I connected with loads of old family and mum and dad's friends I haven't spoken to for years. So you just got to try and look on the positive. You need to kind of, as my dad said, reach for the positive, shake out the negative.
Yeah. I think it is hard when you're right in the middle of something though.
Oh,
you know, like sometimes when I was in probably my like downest time, someone saying, "Oh, think of the positive," I just wanted to slap them across
the face. Yeah.
Because it's hard to do that. But I think what you've shared is really good, because I think things like going for a walk, having a shower, which sounds ridiculous to say, but it is when you're in that moment. You want to wallow, don't you? And you just think you just want to pull the duvet over your head basically and go back to sleep. I know sometimes I was like that, where I just thought I'll go to bed because I didn't want to face the world type of thing. But actually facing the world, speaking to friends, even if you don't share anything to a friend, just picking up the phone and talking about their life, you know what I mean? Because it's like distracts it from yours, or just to put having, if you can share your problems, then great. And going for a walk, just the basic things like that actually do make a really big difference.
They do. I forced myself to do 10,000 steps a day, which I never thought was achievable pre-lockdown, never in a million years. And I also say to my team, you know, block out an hour at lunchtime, 50 minutes in the morning, afternoon. We do our one-to-ones whilst talking, because I know it's not like I don't know my direct team, you know, I know what they're doing, you know, because we work together. So we do our one-to-ones, walking and talking. And I thought, I've just forced myself, just pre this, I told you I needed to straighten my hair and go for a walk. And I just went on the most spooky walk because it's really foggy. But forced myself to do it because I wasn't quite at the 10,000. Nice, refreshing. It wasn't that cold. Did another couple of thousand steps. It doesn't take long, 15 minutes, and you've done 2,000 steps. It's good. It is good to get out and just get that little bit of a break.
Yeah. Also, I know you touched on the stuff with Stuart and being like an army wife. I know you're not really the traditional type of army wife. How have you got through, like, because I know he's been away on tours for long times, haven't they? How have you got through stuff like that? Not seeing him for months, you know, and things like that, or worried about what's going to happen to him when he was in Iraq and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Afghan 2012 was sort of the worst one. So how did I get through it? I went down to the camp quite a lot, as much as they're based down in Warminster and I'm in the Midlands, so it's a good 3 hours, but they do a lot of wives events and kids events. So going to Poulton's Park and things like that. There was a couple of times where people died. There was the 6 boys on the Warrior that died very early. It was March the 6th, and then he went out on Valentine's Day. I just drove straight back down to camp to, again, it's being with people who are in your situation and being together. And then the second time the 2 other lads died, again, I just drove straight down to camp. How did I cope with that? I raised £6,000 jumping out of an aeroplane. And actually, Mr. Gray, the books were out during that tour, so we all kept ourselves entertained with 50 Shades. So we were all reading the books, and then I remember getting on the plane, and it was the first sort of male contact we'd had because we were strapped to these butch men that were going to jump out of plane with us. So again, having a giggle, having a laugh, preparing for the homecoming, but I focused myself on fundraising for the lads that had died.
And I know actually you did. There's a charity, isn't there, that you mentioned to me the other day that you wanted to kind of mention on this podcast, and that's linked to the army, I think, or army. Explain to me fully what it is, because I can't remember.
It's called Scotty's Little Soldiers, and it's essentially for families that have been bereaved and daddy or mummy didn't come home, whether that be from a tour or whether that be from I have a friend whose husband had a freak accident in Cyprus and he died, and it's certainly been a great comfort to her. So it's looking after children that have lost mainly their daddies, let's face it, in either in a war zone or active combat, could be on exercise or whatever it may be. So she's amazing. She's called Nikki. She does loads of fundraising up and down the country, but the support she gives to the kids whose, it must be horrendous, whose daddy's been at home and they're not at home and here away, and etc., and then for daddy not to come home, they gave us in Afghan a tub of sweets with all of the days they were going to be away, and when daddies come home, even my boys, even though it's a stepdad, you get a medal, and the kids get a medal for doing the tour. So they do some lovely stuff for the families when the dads are away, but unfortunately, I mean, you were with me. We went to a fundraising ball with one of the wives that had been pregnant in 2012.
Oh yeah.
They were raising money because her husband unfortunately died, and it's the kid. It's horrendous for the wives, but ultimately the wives can move on and meet somebody else. Yeah, they might get a stepdad, but they don't get their daddy. And so yeah, big shout out to Scottish Little Soldiers, because I think what she's doing is amazing.
So we'll put the link for anyone listening. We'll put the link in the show comments if you're listening on iTunes, and in the comments below if you're listening in YouTube, and you can go and check out that charity and the good stuff that they're doing, and donate if you've got any spare money. I think what's inspiring listening to you is that I know you personally, I know you're really driven, and I know you've had hurdle after hurdle with lots of different things, not just your health, your son's health, challenges of all sorts of different kinds of the things along the way, but you've kept on going. And I think that's the main thing in life. We can't control what happens to us, it's how we react, and we can get squashed down, can't we? But we find the strength to get back up again. And it's inspiring listening to you that you've used in a way your leadership with work to get through some of your personal challenges. And I think the shares that you've given to people listening to this, it's the little things of you looking after yourself that get you through, and just like you shared, going for a walk and all those kind of things. So I really appreciate your time sharing your whole life on my podcast, and I hope that people are listening that have had any number of the challenges that Alexis has shared, it's kind of been useful. I always ask everybody at the end of the interview, because of course it's called Your Freedom Podcast, what does freedom mean to you? So what does freedom mean to you, Alexis?
I think freedom, if I could have the perfect freedom, it would be freedom of worry, and trying to manage that worry. So you have talked to me about Fred in your head and eat the frog, and they stand with me. So don't let Fred in your head with a worry, because I can be the biggest worrier in the world, but you've got to try and to get the freedom of that worry, find tactics and ways of dealing with it, because otherwise it's just going to eat you up, the worry and anxiety. Do I worry? Do I get anxious? Of course I do. I've been a complete nightmare during COVID, but how I got out of it was by spending time with friends, actually, by going on that holiday, even though I was worried sick about getting on a plane. But do you know what? That 7 days did me the world of good, and I knew it would. And now my anxiety levels around COVID wave 2, they were up here and now they're down here. So I think freedom of just worrying about things in life, whether or not that be, am I being a good mum? Am I doing well at work? How's my financial situation? Is my ex-husband being a wally and being polite? Is my current husband away on tour? Whatever. You have to find techniques to free yourself of that worry. And I think for me, being free is just, if you will get the worry and you will get the anxiety, but how can you relieve that by whatever tactic suits you, whether it's walking, getting dressed, seeing your friends, speaking to your friends. And you always said to me, you need to eat that frog and stop Fred in your head, making you anxious. So I think for me, freedom is all about trying to find ways to get rid of that worry and anxiety.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to end this interview. I really appreciate your time, Alexis, and thanks for sharing everything, and thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group, now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back, right now is the chance. This is an experience, it's the Freedom Podcast. Hey.